Everyone thinks a $1,600 dive computer is just paying extra for a shiny screen, but here's the thing, the Garmin Descent Mk3i isn't just a pretty AMOLED. It's a legit dive communication hub on your wrist because Garmin built subwave messaging and group tank monitoring into a 200-meter rated titanium watch-style body. Sounds like marketing? Wait. Most of those promises fall apart when you're cold, gloved, and task-loaded. I spent 3 weeks diving with the Mk3i salt, fresh day, night to see what actually holds up. And what I discovered about its flashlight, maps, and diver-to-diver comms might change how you choose a dive computer. Before we dive into what I discovered, quick heads up. If you're already leaning toward it and want the best price, I've dropped my recommended link below. But stick around, there's a catch with the messaging feature and a couple of trade-offs you should know before you buy. Setup. I wanted one device that could handle rec dives, occasional tech training, and double as a daily watch. My last dive computer was bulletproof but bulky, and the screen washed out in murky water. Another had decent air integration, but the buttons were sticky with gloves. Add in a gnarly night dive where my backup light failed, and I started looking for something brighter, smarter, and more reliable. The Mk3i promised a 1.4-inch AMOLED for readability, a built-in LED flashlight with red and white modes, inductive metal buttons rated to 200 meters, and subwave sonar to send preset messages to your buddy, plus monitor tank pressure and depth for up to 8 divers when paired with the Descent T2 transceiver. Skeptical? Absolutely. A smartwatch that's also a serious dive computer usually means compromises. And at 51 with a titanium bezel and sapphire lens, I wondered if it would feel like a dinner plate on my wrist. Confrontation. First test was a shallow reef with moderate surge. The display, crisp, even with midday glare, the 1.4-inch AMOLED stayed legible at a glance. The underwater compass was snappy and the haptic alarms were strong enough to feel through a 5mm glove. But then I switched to a murky lake with silt and low vis, the true screen killer. The sapphire lens shrugged off a brush with a rocky ladder and brightness still punched through. However, crank brightness too high and you'll feel it in battery life if you keep the always-on display. Predictable, but worth calling out. Second scenario, night dive and rec swim-throughs. This is where the built-in LED flashlight surprised me. The white beam isn't a primary light replacement, but as a fill or quick hands-free check, it's fantastic. The red light? Loved it for preserving night vision when checking gauges. Multiple intensities and strobe modes were genuinely useful above and below water. But then, the real stress test, cold water with thick gloves, those inductive metal buttons. Clicked cleanly, no mush, no accidental presses. The 200-meter dive-rated case felt overbuilt in the right way. Third, subwave comms. With software v15.70 or later, you can send preset messages to your buddy, and when paired with a T2 transceiver, you can see tank pressure and depth. In practice, messages worked within roughly 30 meters diver-to-diver, and group tank monitoring worked within about 10 meters when everybody had T2S. On a small team, seeing another diver's remaining gas at a glance is a game changer. But here's where it gets interesting. It only shines if your team is on Garmin. If your buddy's on another brand or nobody has a T2, you lose the secret sauce. Messaging is also preset only, which keeps it simple but not chatty. Fourth, navigation and logging. Multiband GPS locked fast on the surface. It marked my entry and exit points cleanly for post-dive review in the Garmin Dive app. GPS does not work underwater, to be clear, but surface tracks made briefing and debriefing easier. Dive view maps with bathymetric contours and 4,000+ dive sites helped me plan shore entries, and on trips it reduced that where do we drop pin anxiety. On-wrist storage of 200 dives made it simple to scroll past profiles without pulling out my phone. Finally, the in-between life. Built-in sports apps, heart rate, advanced sleep, respiration, pulse ox, Garmin Pay, music storage. It actually replaced my daily smartwatch. The dive readiness tool pulled in sleep, stress, and exercise to suggest how prepared I was to dive. It's an estimate, not medical data, but on one morning after lousy sleep and travel, it flagged low readiness, and honestly, I felt it. Battery with mixed use, flashlight checks, and mid-brightness, I got through a long weekend Livia board without scrambling for a charger. Heavy messaging and high brightness will shorten that naturally. Discovery. The headline feature isn't just the AMOLED or the titanium flex, it's situational awareness. Between subwave comms, group tank monitoring with T2, a bright, readable screen, and an onboard flashlight, the Mk3i made me feel more connected and less overloaded underwater. I invested the hours, pre-dawn shore dives, night dives, a handful of cold water sessions, expecting to find a glaring weak point. Instead, the caveat is more about ecosystem than performance. The Mk3i hits full stride when your buddies are also on Garmin and at least a couple of you are running T2 transceivers. Against alternatives, a Shearwater still sets the bar for pure tech diving simplicity and tactile UI, and the Apple Watch Ultra with Oceanic Plus is a solid rec option if you accept subscriptions and shorter battery. But as an all-in-one dive computer plus everyday training watch, the Mk3i is the most complete package I've used. The price is high at $1599.99, but it's not hype, it's features that meaningfully reduce friction on real dives. And the Amazon rating hovering around 4.6 stars tracks with my experience. Now that you know the Mk3i's real edge is underwater awareness, not just a pretty screen, grab it while bundles with the Descent T2 aren't backordered. I've linked the best current price below. If you're going Mk3i, you don't want to chase a T2 later when stock tightens. Bottom line, if you want a watch-style dive computer that doubles as a serious training smartwatch and you value team awareness and top-tier readability, the Garmin Descent Mk3i is worth it. It's ideal for instructors, live-aboard regulars, photographers, and multi-sport divers. If you're a minimalist on a tight budget, have very small wrists, or your whole team is committed to another ecosystem, you might pass. Here's what nobody tells you, the Mk3i isn't about flash, it's about cutting your cognitive load when it matters. That's why it earns a spot on my wrist.